Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish series stars. I hope your day is going smoothly, because what we're about to unpack has turned even the calmest timelines upside down. We're talking about Alina Boz and Alp Navras, two names that have defined a certain kind of magic in Turkish showbiz, and the wave that just hit their story is the kind that makes even longtime fans pause, refresh, and read again. If you follow them, or if you love watching the high tides of celebrity life, stay close. This one is emotional, layered, and yes, full of the kinds of details that leave you replaying every red carpet smile and every interview answer with new eyes. Let's be honest, some couples arrive in the public's mind like a scene you swear you've watched 100 times. Alina and Alp felt like that. Not just because of their separate careers, each decorated, disciplined, intensely followed. But because whenever their paths brushed in public, there was an easy synchronicity, an unspoken rhythm that fans latched onto immediately. It wasn't loud. It wasn't overexposed. It was just compelling. Their rare joint moments, festival photos, campaign events, award show proximity, that casual familiarity when two people meet the same spotlight from different angles, were enough to spark 1,000 threads and countless edits. People didn't just watch them. People rooted for them. That's why what fell into everyone's feeds on December 29, 2025, felt so seismic. The headlines moved quickly, the posts moved faster, and the comments moved fastest of all. At first, there was a hush, that moment when everyone agrees to pretend it's just another rumor. But then more angles appeared, more close sources, more careful phrasing that sounded suspiciously final. The best way to describe it is this: something shifted, and the shift was loud enough to reach all of us. The part that hurts is how unexpected it feels. It's not news about a fresh project with both names on the poster. Not an engagement announcement. Not a baby rumor. Not even a strategically timed brand reveal. The update is of an entirely different genre. It's not a headline that brings roses and white doves. It's one of those quiet truths that changes what you thought the last chapter meant. If you've been paying attention, this won't be the first time the whispers found them. Through the past couple of years, Alina's image, delicate yet fiercely professional, very selective about what she shows, made her something of an enigma. Alp, on the other hand, has always carried an earthy charisma, a warmth that translates in interviews and candid photos, a look in the eyes that says he's halfway between the set and the sea. Together, even in rumor, they held a balance. They never flooded us with content. They never exploited a glance. Yet the chemistry lived in snapshots. An awards night smile that lingered, a backstage video where they drifted toward each other without thinking, a brand dinner where the seating chart told its own story. The internet coined them a golden pair long before either of them ever said they were a pair at all. It's exactly because of that subtlety that today's development has set the web ablaze. According to reports circling across platforms, it appears they've hit a crossroads. Some call it a break, others a separation, and a few say it's simply a recalibration. The words are slippery, the tone varies depending on which account you read, but the drift is unmistakable. The relationship as we understood it is not in the same place it was. And the reasons being floated are complex enough to make even the most casual observer sit with it. Is it about timing? That word comes up repeatedly. We've heard mentions of schedules that don't breathe, of projects that demanded different cities for longer than usual, of family commitments that needed undivided attention, of dreams that started in parallel and suddenly ran at divergent speeds. There's talk of personal growth, real, messy, necessary growth, that doesn't always make room for synchronized steps. The rumors mention long, honest conversations, a sense of respect so intact that it refused to let the story lag behind what was true. Notice how the leak happened. It wasn't a grand press release. No heavily edited couple's statement. It rolled out in fragments, in text blocks that sounded like someone told a careful friend who told a cautious editor who told the rest of us. The timing, right at the edge of the year, allowed everyone to call it a clean slate, which is nice branding for something that likely felt raw behind closed doors. If you've ever loved someone while also loving your work, you know how it goes. Priorities demand full attention. Fame amplifies the tremors. Of course, social media did what social media does. Within hours, their names were trending in multiple countries. Some fans wrote paragraphs about trust and destiny. Some posted old clips with captions that stung a little more than usual. Others, predictably, tried to draw a third figure into the picture. Some supposed someone spotted in a frame, a comment liked, a photo angle dissected to the pixel. It became the world's most public whisper, dressed up as analysis. Let's draw a line here. We don't know the private details, and that is by design. Neither Alina nor Alp has thrown gasoline on the fire. No confessional stories. No let me set the record straight reels. If anything, the quiet is telling. It suggests a decision to process, not perform. It suggests that the story matters to them in ways algorithms can't measure. Is it frustrating for those who want closure? Sure. But it's also exactly the kind of boundary that preserves what is still dignified in a space that rarely rewards restraint. Yet there's room to talk about why this hit so hard. Why do we care this much about two people we don't personally know? Part of it is obvious: we project. We've watched Alina shape characters with hidden storms behind clear eyes, and we know that she carries that same precision in real life. Careful choices, intentional movement, a certain stillness that refuses to be rushed. We've watched Alp inhabit roles that require tenderness and resolve, and we assume that the man who hikes between shoots and jokes with crews is also the man who can make love last through noise. Together, even in silence, they created a myth, and myths are hard to release. Think about the archive. Alina in a black dress at a festival, laughing at something just out of frame. Alp in a suit that scaled back the shine in favor of structure, leaning in when she spoke. The clip where a host teased them and neither took the bait. Instead they traded a glance that looked like a promise made in a language only they spoke. The way they managed to be two stars without blinding each other. All of it played in endless loops, edited with music, turned into declarations of fate by people who needed a wine at love angle at least once a week. Now, December 29th, 2025, asks us to reframe. Not to erase those moments, but to let them belong to the time they came from. Maybe the love story isn't over. Maybe it has changed shapes. Maybe it became the kind of bond that doesn't need a label. Or maybe it preferred honesty to inertia. Whatever the case, what's clear is the courage it takes to make a choice that risks disappointing millions in order to be fair to two. Professionally, both are still ascending, and that complicates everything. There are scripts to read, directors to meet, flights to catch before the sun rises. There are contracts that expect availability and faces that must deliver serenity even when the heart is tired. Some insiders, the kind who speak in careful metaphors, hint that major offers arrived at the same time from different directions. That alone can fracture a calendar. Add in families, friendships, and the very human need for quiet, and suddenly even the best intentions need a plan B. We've also heard that the initial spark, the one that made fans swear they could hear a soundtrack, started in something as ordinary as shared respect. Same industry, different lanes. A chance conversation after an event. A comfort in each other's company that didn't need to be dressed up for the public. That's how so many great stories begin, not with fireworks, but with recognition. And sometimes that recognition produces beautiful chapters that end before anyone wants them to, not because love failed, but because life asked for a different shape. People are guessing, as people do. There's a theory that they decided to pause before the new year to avoid the ripple effect on upcoming premieres. Another that a family matter required one of them to step away, and they agreed not to ask the other to slow down. A third insists they simply said, "Let's give each other the room we deserve," and meant it. Pick any and it still leads to the same truth: we won't know unless they choose to tell us. What's undeniable is the sheer volume of feeling pouring toward them. Read the comments beneath their recent posts. Fans write to Alina about grace and boundaries, telling her they admire the way she protects her peace. They tell Alp they learned from his optimism, his way of smiling with his whole face when someone else is talking. People remember small gestures, him adjusting a microphone for her on stage, her checking that he had water during a long press line. Tiny kindnesses that became evidence of something larger. It's tempting to reduce celebrity relationships to plotlines. But this is not an episode you binge and forget. It's the real timeline of two people at the center of a hurricane they never fully invited. That is why, here at Turkish Series Stars, we try to hold both truths, our curiosity and our compassion. Yes, we are drawn to the story. Yes, we want answers. And yes, we will keep reminding ourselves that love is a private country, even when its borders are constantly photographed. Let's talk about impact. On their careers? Likely none in the long run. If anything, this will underline the professionalism both have shown for years. The industry respects boundaries more than fandoms think. Projects continue. Scripts don't pause. But the public perception? That's shifting. Some are disappointed, some relieved, many resigned, a few genuinely proud. Proud of two people who didn't weaponize attention to drag each other or dramatize something tender for clicks. Proud that the only smoke in this story is the one blowing off our own keyboards. What happens next? Maybe a statement. Maybe a quiet confirmation tucked into a longer interview about craft. Maybe nothing at all, which would be its own kind of answer. If there's one constant with Alina and Alp, it's that the work speaks louder than anything else, and the work ahead is crowded with potential. Solo arcs. New co-stars. Festival circuits that will require the same poise they always had, just with a different kind of spotlight. There's another angle worth mentioning, growth. We speak about it like it's a caption, but it's heavy and unglamorous up close. Growth is choosing the path that favors truth over applause, clarity over comfort. It's making room for who you're becoming, even if it means stepping back from the version of you that the world loved the most. If that's what happened here, and all signs point to something brave and carefully decided, then maybe this isn't a lost story. Maybe it's a chapter that refuses to lie. Of course, we know how this ecosystem works. In the absence of direct quotes, the rumor mill invents. Today it's a stray glance. Tomorrow it's a sleepless night filmed from across a street. We urge you to take a breath before believing the loudest voice in the room. So far, the people who matter have remained dignified. Let's meet them there. To the ones who are grieving a fantasy, your ache makes sense. You saw something that felt rare and you wanted to keep it. To the ones who feel oddly hopeful, that makes sense too. If you love these two as artists and people, you recognize that endings, when done right, are a form of respect. And to those in the middle, curious, cautious, compassionate, thank you for being the kind of audience that can hold nuance in an era that often rejects it. We'll keep listening, watching, and waiting for what is theirs to say. If and when Alina and Alp speak, we'll bring it to you carefully, without sensationalism, because they deserve that and so do you. Until then, we can only honor the story they gave us by refusing to turn it into something it never was, a spectacle. It was a connection, real enough to move millions even in quiet. That is no small legacy. As for us, consider this our promise, we'll continue to cover the art, the premieres, the roles that demand vulnerability and nerve. We'll celebrate the wins, dissect the craft, and remain mindful of the hearts involved. That is the standard we set here at Turkish Series Stars, and this moment is precisely when standards matter. Now it's your turn. How did today's news land with you? Did it shock you, or did you sense a change in the air these past few weeks? Do you think they'll address it directly, or will they let the story rest where it is? And how do you imagine this moment shaping the kinds of characters they choose next, the kind of scripts that might understand them better because they've walked through a fire and come out honest? Share your thoughts, your theories, and your well wishes below. Speak with the respect you would want for yourself. If this conversation moved you, tap that like button, it helps our team keep telling these stories with care. Send this video to the friend who edits every Alina and out moment into a mini-film, to the group chat that argues about endings and new beginnings, to anyone who understands that love is sometimes a chapter and not the book. And if you're new here, welcome. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our breakdowns, our deep dives, and our quiet moments of reflection when the headlines get loud. Thank you for spending time with us today, for trusting us with a topic so many people have opinions about, and for coming back, again and again, to a space that values both the story and the souls inside it. We'll see you soon with more updates, more artistry, and more humanity. Until then, be kind to them, to each other, and to the parts of yourself that still believe in the love story behind the lens.